Hey everybody, it's your old pal Tristan here, and we're back from the library with another book review. Uh, if you've been on my channel, you know I love the Universal monsters. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, all of them. What we're going to look at today is Universal Horrors by Tom Weaver, Michael, and John Brunas. It's been out for a few years now. This is actually the second edition. And this is a book that I loved when I was in school. When I was studying film in university, this was one that I discovered in the library and took out all the time. I had never heard of it. I had never seen it on Amazon or eBay or anything like that. It was never at my local library or in my local bookstores. But it was just something I happened to stumble across while I was looking for research notes on an essay. And I instantly fell in love with it. Anytime I had to kill time on campus, this was the book I would take off the shelf. That and Scorsese on Scorsese. But what it is, essentially, is a filmography. Like, it goes through each and every one of the Universal horror movies from the 30s and 40s. Detailing their background, their making of, the plot, the actors, and it provides criticism. It also even includes critics' reviews from the 1940s when these movies were originally released. So you get both the modern perspective from these fans who obviously grew up in the baby boomer generation, as well as like the actual cinema snobs from back in the day. And it's just a well-researched book. I cannot recommend this thing enough. What's really great about it, though, is the way it sheds light on some of the more obscure films. Like, we've heard the behind-the-scenes story on Frankenstein and Dracula a million times, but we've never heard about, say, The Mad Ghoul, or The Time of Their Lives, which is an Abbott and Costello comedy that happens to revolve around ghosts. We've never gotten this sort of in-depth look at these other second-tier, third-tier movies. Some of them, like Boris Karloff's Night Key, which you can barely even consider a horror film. It's all in there. Anything that was on TV packaged with those like shock movie marathons back in the day, that's what gets encompassed in this book. So it's extremely thorough. If you want to know anything about Golden Age Hollywood horror, this is the book to pick up. Some people might criticize it because it doesn't cover the 1950s or even the later 40s. It essentially covers the Golden Age. So they skip over the silent era. There's no Lon Chaney. There's no Phantom of the Opera. It starts with Dracula, the coming of the sound horror movie. And it runs through the first cycle of films in the 1930s and then the revival in the 1940s. And there was a gap from the last couple of movies, like House of Dracula and the Rondo Hatton stuff, between those movies and the spoofs, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and then the sci-fi resurgence with Creature from the Black Lagoon. They keep it to serious gothic horror, essentially, that classic run. So you begin in 1931 and you end around 45, I think. But like they even cover the movie serials. Like in the appendices, they look at things like The Phantom Creeps with Bela Lugosi. Anything that even exists on the periphery, they cover. So while it's extremely focused, it's also very, very detailed. And there has been other stuff put out there, like Tom Weaver, one of the writers. He's actually my favorite commentator on DVD tracks ever. If you want a historian commentary that's very conversational and easygoing, check out his commentaries on Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Wolfman. They are so much fun. He's actually put out his own book, I believe, on the Creature trilogy from the 1950s. So it's not like the research ends with this book, but as far as the golden age of Universal monster movies goes, this is the be-all, end-all. My favorite thing about the book, which is also very conflicting, is how harsh they are. These guys obviously grew up watching these movies on TV. They love the Universal monsters. They love the Universal horror movies. But they know that we tend to look at these films, especially as fans, with rose-colored glasses. They are examining these from the perspective of film historians, as film critics. Not everyone is going to like or be able to appreciate a movie like Horror Island or Man-Made Monster. Everyone is going to be able to appreciate Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein. It's just the nature of the quality of these movies. And they address that. They tear apart the movies that deserve to be torn apart. They acknowledge the ones that are fun despite themselves. And I think they are extremely fair even when they are being harsh. I think it's to eliminate any sense of bias based on their own opinions of the movies. They are just right down the line, critically, what makes a good movie. The other thing is they're very critical of some actors. Like, there's one guy I love from the old Universal canon. His name was J. Edward Bromberg. He played a vampire hunter in Son of Dracula. And they don't like him at all. They rip him a new one at every opportunity they get. They also seem to take issue with some Dwight Fry and even Bela Lugosi performances. But honestly, some of the Lugosi stuff they bring up, it's legitimate, especially in regards to the earlier movies he did, where he hadn't quite mastered English yet. I don't know, because like I said, I have the second edition. I don't know if there's any major differences between that and the first printing. The first printing was actually the one that I read when I was in school. And the only thing I remember being different is the dedication at the beginning. The original one was dedicated to Bela Lugosi and had a picture of Dracula on the first page, whereas the new edition has Boris Karloff and is likewise dedicated. But yeah, if you love the Universal monsters, if you're into old school, classic Hollywood horror, Universal Horrors is the way to go. This is an amazing book. It's extremely well researched. And it's also a lot of fun, and you'll learn a lot of things about a bunch of obscure movies that you never thought you'd learn. Like how Lon Chaney survived the Mummy movies by getting drunk with vodka. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, check out the movie reviews, and I'll catch you all next time.